Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to today's episode of the Double Stuff Podcast. I'm Charity.
I'm Dan.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Sarah.
And this season, we are revisiting some episodes that we did from season 1 because we are celebrating this season that we've been doing this podcast for a year, which is very exciting. Congratulations to us. But one of the podcast episodes that I led was talking about dreams. So let's take a quick listen at Alan's dream that he shared with us last year.
For some reason, and I don't know why, but I'm in the White House. There's like a digital keypad safe. I need to know how to get into the safe. And then suddenly I'm thinking, why am I in the White House? I'm in a dream.
I do like, because every once in a while I do have dreams where I do realize halfway through, oh, okay, I am in a dream. It's kind of interesting how the mind works.
See, I never realized I'm dreaming.
I was like, well, if I'm in a dream, I can make up the combination. And so I just, on the keypad, hit 1, 2, 3, 4, and then click, open the door, and then it opened up. And I have no idea what was in the safe. I think that was the end of the dream. I just clicked it and then opened it, and that was the end of the dream.
Double Stuff is going to Washington, D.C.
Especially when the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. And you know what? Secret Service is like, how did he know?
They're probably like,
How did he know?
4, 3, 2, 1.
I know,
Try to
switch it
guess
back.
that.
Yeah,
try
4, 3, 2,
that.
1.
Yeah, because they wouldn't guess counting down.
That's right.
So I remember that being a really funny dream, specifically the fact that this big, super secret password was just a simple 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, but I willed it. That's the impressive part. I willed it to be 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's true. We didn't talk about, was it lucid dreaming? That's what it's called, where you're like in a halfway
Dan and I
awake
talked
state.
a little bit about that in that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know one of the things that we didn't really get to discuss during that episode last year was Sarah mentioning dreaming in black and white.
Oh,
And just some
Yes.
different interesting facts. So I actually did a little research for this one.
okay.
Most of the websites that I researched said that, if you dream in black and white, it's because, television influenced it. Most of it had to do with, older people who grew up watching black and white television back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were exposed to it as a child, you get the same effect. But one of the websites I saw says, if you dream in black and white, it generally represents a lack of participation in a dream
Interesting.
because it means that you're viewing it as an observer and you're not experiencing it firsthand. So it's almost like you're watching a movie. So I don't know if that is accurate, if any of you guys have dreamt in black and white, but that's sort of what the general idea was.
I have not.
I guess it kind of makes sense because you yourself is living in this color world, I guess that kind of makes sense just based on what we've seen. Like one of the dreams I had, I dreamt that I was talking with Buster Keaton, which if you guys don't know who he was a famous silent movie actor.
How dare you?
Which in the
assume
dream,
that our listeners don't know who Buster Keaton is.
That's true. If not, look him up. He's great.
Would the dream when you were
Ironically
talking
enough-
to him and never he would talk, would it like be silent and then come up with a flashcard?
What's funny is that he never answered any of my questions. It was one of those dreams. I was dreaming I was in a trolley car kind of thing. I was still living in Indiana, and he was the guy that was driving the trolley car. And he was in black and white, though I was in color. The whole world was in color but him. And so I was like asking him, like, where are we going? Can you stop? I want to. And he looked at me, but didn't answer questions. He was just doing the silent movie thing. So I guess that kind of works out because I guess it was that outside looking in kind of thing.
So since we were talking about dreaming in black and white, that was interesting because some of the articles that I read had to deal with studies they did on blind people and they dream. And so I found it interesting. This is just my lack of knowledge on it, that I guess I wasn't aware that blind people could dream. But I mean, even though they haven't seen what stuff is, they feel it. And so they're aware of it. But, they may not know what certain colors are. And so they were saying that a lot of people who are blind, or if they're born blind, then they dream in black and white.
Oh.
So that was just an interesting fact. But that led to something that Sarah and I were talking about earlier this morning was daydreaming.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's daydreaming versus nighttime dreaming. So before we get into the notes that I found, do you guys often find yourselves daydreaming, or is that something,
Constantly, yeah.
get your head out of the clouds?
All right. Yeah, I daydream all the time. One of the things that I catch myself is I tend to start daydreaming in a form possibly of procrastination. Like if I know that something that I'm about to do is going to be super involving, I find my mind drifting and I have to snap myself out of it because I'm old enough now to know that my mind is procrastinating, that there's something that that I know that I need to do, and it's going to take a lot of focus, and I'm going to be highly aware of what it is that I'm going to be working on for the next several minutes, possibly several hours. And for some reason, my brain starts to say, I don't want to go there just yet. And I just start daydreaming. And minutes will pass by, and I'm like,
"What a way to escape it?"
I think so, and I have to tell myself, like, what are you doing now? And you have things to do. Let's get to it. I have to be strong with myself sometimes. Sometimes I got to spank myself.
Oh, that's a great line out of context.
Well, I'd watch that.
Yeah, that's true. That's our first one of the season.
Anyway,
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I do this. I'm actually very similarly, like I do the same thing where I will spend a lot of time daydreaming as a form of procrastination. And yeah, I mean, which is funny because I actually seem to at least recall or remember my daydreams a lot more. Because yeah, like I said in the last episode, I don't dream. I don't remember dreams at all. Daydreams, though, on the other hand, I'm all about those. Probably because I note them, like I write a lot of them down or like ideas from them down, and that seems to help a lot.
See, when I mean, maybe I use daydreaming as a form of procrastination now, but sometimes my daydreaming can get so vivid that I find myself talking out loud in a situation. So
I've done that.
Yeah. So
yes.
So it always happens like this. I daydream that I'm in an interview, like some kind of like a talk show or something like that. And this is after I've been established in some kind of famous position. And whoever the interviewer is, I hear them asking a question, but I answer it out loud.
Yeah.
And I catch myself saying it out loud. As you know, because I might be cleaning up my room and I hear it and I'm like, well, it all started about 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh, I'm talking. I hear myself saying it out loud. So it kind of adds a bit of a reality to it.
Or you're just lost in it. I do that when I'm driving too.
Oh, that's
Actually,
nice and
yeah,
safe.
That's a good segue because that leads me to something I found about a study. But, you know, you were talking about, you know, the websites that I looked at, they said in general, daydreaming is good because it helps you problem solve and, you know, creative process going. And, you know, you were talking about your interviews. It's sort of a practice for when you're in a real thing, you know, but I was doing some reading about daydreaming and how it can be dangerous, which leads to what Alan was talking about with driving. You know, they always talk about how texting and driving is so dangerous because you're distracted.
Right.
But a lot of people daydream while they're driving. And so there was a study that was done in 2017 where they took a bunch of volunteers and they did this like simulated driving experience and they monitored their brainwaves while they were doing it. And so, you know, there was like a buzzer that would go off just at a random time. It didn't say how long, but they would like monitor their brain activity after the buzzer went off. And so they would be alert for a little while and then they would kind of drift away and then the buzzer would bring them back to reality. And so it would say that they found that 70% of people's minds wander when they drive. And that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
When you have all those people on the road driving and you got people of all ages, you got your people who just got their learner's permit and you have, you know, middle-aged and older people, you know, over half of them are daydreaming while they're driving.
Yeah, and I don't think I realize how much I do it. There's been a couple of times where my wife has been in the passenger seat and all of a sudden, like my hands will tense or I'll just do something and she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. Don't, it's like the buzzer snapping me back. Dreaming. But here's the scariest part. Have you ever been daydreaming enough? Because it's happened to me a couple of times where all of a sudden you're pulling into the driveway and you're like,
how did I get here?
How did I get here?
Oh my gosh.
And that's really scary for me.
Well, when you have the same routine and you drive the same route to work, you drive the same route home and, you know, go to the same grocery store, go to the same restaurants, you know, you memorize it. And you know, think about how you were driving when you first learned how to drive and, you know, 10 to 2, eyes on the road, use your turn signals. And now, you know, you're driving with your knees, eating the McDonald's burger and not paying attention.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, that's my thing. I'm like, I was just on 30. My last known memory is I was on 37. I was going down 37th, and all of a sudden I'm in my neighborhood pulling up to my driveway, and I have no idea.
Like
so
how you
I
get
was
there.
daydreaming while I was going through my neighborhood, and that's kind of scary too.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it counts as daydreaming too, but sometimes like when I'm driving, because I know what I'm doing, quote unquote, I might not be daydreaming about, oh, what am I going to do? But I'm thinking like of my mental schedule, like, oh, I've got a video shoot coming up. Oh, I got to edit that piece. Oh, I have a meeting, a Zoom call that I have to,
Yeah.
And so does that count as daydreaming, or is that just mentally preparing for the day?
I want to say, I think that counts, but the scary part is when you lose time. I think that's the part for me that I was like, where did the last half hour go? If I'm sitting down or doing something or driving, I mean, that would be the scariest part. But the part that really kind of shakes me up is like the loss of time. And it could just be a few seconds or a few minutes or something like that. But I'm sure I don't know what that is.
I wonder if you're in those situations where you maybe just depends on how tired you are. You start out daydreaming and then you fall asleep and actually dream.
I can be,
Well,
that's good
true.
if you're in bed.
Yeah,
but not driving.
Oh, not driving. No.
Yeah.
I'm sure fatigue has something to do with it, because rarely do I daydream or lose time in the morning time. It's always in the PM.
Yeah. It's usually after lunch if it's like 2:00.
That's true.
You're kind of sleepy, full from lunch, and you don't want to be
I'll have
at work.
all the lasagna today.
But yeah, I enjoy daydreaming. It's I find fun in it, as weird as that sounds. I'm able.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in my most artistic when I'm daydreaming, because I'm able to, kind of, we were talking about thinking of scenarios or trying to think of ideas so that I can draw.
You get the creative juices
Get
going.
the creative juices.
I mean, very often when I'm doing a video shoot, as I'm shooting and getting the footage and stuff, I'm already editing the piece in my mind, which I guess that's a form of daydreaming, but I'm like, okay, if I were editing this, what shot would I want? What angle do I want? So you're preparing.
No,
for
that's a mature producer right there, because you have to know where you're going, what's your transition into the next package, what's the next transition to the next scene or whatever. No, I think that's mature. I mean, you should always be thinking about what leads to what. So yeah, it's definitely, daydreaming is helpful. I think when you're actively looking for it, when you're, and then eventually it kind of becomes automatic when it's work related and things like that. But I agree that it can be dangerous especially when you're driving or when you're operating something that could potentially go wrong if you don't have 100% attention. Yeah.
Something I often daydream about is meeting celebrities, because in my field, hopefully when I become bigger and better at stuff, I'm going to meet famous people, and people are in the industry.
You're meeting them right now.
Well, yeah, of course.
Alan, the ultimate celebrity.
That's right.
No, but I want to make sure that like say I meet Benedict Cumberbatch, I don't want to go all fangirl and be like, oh my gosh, I want to look professional and make sure that I'm not looking like an idiot. And so, I've practiced conversations with producers and actors and stuff. So that way,
focus on his name. Don't say Benedict Cumberbatch. I messed it up.
It's like he's lived with that name his whole life of people butchering his name. So I want to make sure I say it correctly. But do you guys have celebrity daydreams?
I don't have celebrity daydreams so much, but what I do is if I watch like a movie recently or something, I will rewrite the dialogue in scenes. Like I'll daydream. I'll play scenes out differently than what they were in the movie or the way that I would do them. So like with actors and stuff.
It's like redirecting a film, I guess. Like in your
Come
mind.
up with your own director's cut.
Exactly.
With commentary.
That's right.
I think that's actually a really good idea. That kind of goes to what we were talking about before of preparing for a video. Yeah, and how you would do things differently. I used to do that with music videos. Yeah. Because I love music, and I'll see a video, I'm like, why did they do that? And then I'll redo it in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm constantly daydreaming about meeting celebrities, and not just celebrities, but writers, directors, and we've had some situations where literally, our dreams came true. Me and Charity got to meet Robert Osborne when we were hosting on Turner Classic Movies, and I had been daydreaming about that for years and years and years. So that's an actual testament of dreams actually do come true, whether it's daydreaming or doing it at nighttime or whatever.
I guess it's one of those power of positive thinking sort of ideas.
This is definitely a moment where it's like, I'm going to let you guys talk about how you daydream, because for guys, those types of daydreams we can't talk about.
It turns out a little weird, doesn't it?
That's very
it goes
true.
in a different direction.
That does sound well. There's a difference between I don't know. There's a difference between daydreaming and fantasy, but that's for a whole other conversation. But
I would say it's similar. It's just what you choose to think about. But I mean, like, if you go back to your younger days,
going back to my younger days.
Alan, what do you?
In daydreaming about celebrities, they did not include, hey, it was nice to meet you.
Let's go a little younger. Yeah. Did you like watch Barney growing up?
Am I blushing right now? I feel like I'm blushing.
I could, but who could tell?
Well, before we end, and speaking of talking about dreaming about celebrities, Sarah recently had a regular nighttime dream.
I did.
Where she had a couple random celebrities in there. So, Sarah, do you want to recount your dream that you recently had?
Yes, I do tend to have interesting dreams, but this one was really trippy and kind of took the cake. I actually dreamed this on January 4th, knowing full well we were going to revisit this episode. So I'm going to read this the way I remember it.
That's actually good you wrote it down, because usually you lose your recall within the first minute or so.
Now, as soon as I woke up, I tried to write what I remembered.
Oh, good.
So,
good for you.
January 4th, log 2021. Okay, here we go. Back in Indiana, possibly at the church we used to attend, it was a long, long hallway. It had stairs and balconies, and I spoke to Dean Martin about being in an upcoming show. He started smoking a cigarette, and I tried to light one too so I could look cool, but I kept inhaling liquid somehow along with smoke. Then I got a job, not quite sure what, but I had the options.
That's your apnea.
Probably. I got a job, not sure what, but I had the options of picking out my office. There was a really nice one, but it was so far, and I timed it. It was 7 minutes to the nearest bathroom, and I couldn't have that. So I picked a desk area that's shared by 3 other people, one being the father of the pastor. I was then escorted by actors into this large empty theater with very colorful sets and lights. They were discouraged that they didn't have the opportunity to perform, possibly due to COVID, and I assured them that we would perform, and somehow I made myself an actor right then and there. I went back to my long corridor office to plan, and I spoke to the other coworkers about this comedy show. There were 2 women that I shared an office with, but they didn't seem to really be with the idea. They had ulterior motives. I still don't know who or what they were, but they didn't want to cooperate and did the least bit of effort to help with this production. They kept sneaking off into the bathroom, and I suspect they were stealing stuff from the office and hiding it in there. The comedy performance was going great-ish. I was backstage rehearsing and cheering on the performers. Then it was time for me to do a comedy act on stage with the cast from Monty Python for some reason. I don't remember the routine, but involved us doing a speech while eating fried cockroaches, but they looked like pork rinds. We were sitting cross-legged, and we hadn't rehearsed this, so that's why I was really confused. But I had to commit because now we were in front of a live audience. I had to eat the fried cockroaches, but since it looked like pork rinds, I didn't mind. And that's when I woke up.
Wow. That's interesting that you were talking about it was the church in Indiana, but then it was all this other stuff. Because that happens to me all the time. I just recently was telling my daughters about a dream that I had, and I was in my house. And I knew it was my house, but it was not my house.
Yeah.
And our dog, Bez, who is a medium-sized dog, would you guys say?
Yeah.
Okay, well, in the dream, it was Bezzy, but she was a lot bigger.
Like Clifford big? Like
Not Clifford big. I would say like
Marmaduke big?
McGruff?
Yeah, Marmaduke big or something. And the backyard had snow, but the snow had frozen. And when she went out, she kind of broke through that first layer and then kind of like went down and thought that it was interesting. And my dog loves the snow, so that's probably what played into this dream. And in the backyard was my backyard, but it was huge. It was still chain link fence. And she would run and then slide on the ice, but she couldn't stop, and so would bang into the chain link fence, turn around, run, slide like a sled on the ice, bang into the chain link fence. And I was just like, what are you doing?
The pain is worth the fun.
I don't know. But when you were talking about your dream, and I don't know if this happens to you guys as well, you're in a place that you know is familiar, but it's not that place. Does that happen?
Well, I have a lot of crossover in my dream too. Like I'll dream about, my current group of friends, and all of a sudden someone from kindergarten shows up, or someone, I used to live in Texas. Some of my Texas friends show up. I'm like, where are these people coming from? But somehow we all know each other.
Yeah, I've had
that's
those.
that weird crossover.
Yeah, I think it's that bit of like that childhood nostalgia, because a lot of my dreams take place in Indiana that we haven't been there in 15 years, but yet it's still very vivid.
Yeah.
Well, to interpret quote unquote your dream.
Yeah, I gave Charity the task of doing
she
that.
told me this last night, so I have a few quick facts before we end.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Goody.
So I was looking at some
Shrink her
stuff
head.
about dreaming about celebrities, and they say that if you dream about a celebrity, it means that you want to meet a celebrity or become a celebrity yourself. And
That's
that
true.
I know very much to be true about Sarah, extremely. And then on a personal note, all of the people that you mentioned who were performers are, known for their comedy, whether it's British comedy or, Dean Martin had his celebrity roast and his variety show.
Yeah.
And I know that you've been thinking a lot about comedy lately just because that's what you like and that's what you do.
Yeah.
But through this past year, COVID canceled one of your performances. It canceled your tap dancing classes. And so I think just in general, you might be really itching to perform. Is that sort of accurate?
Yeah. I mean, the plus side, doing a podcast is almost like a way of performing for me, because I'm able to get stuff out. I'm able to talk and stuff and get some interaction. So it's a good outlet until, I'm on the lights on Broadway or something, It'll do.
Well, in your dream, you talked about theater. And so if you dream about theater, you have a desire for exposure and recognition, and perhaps you are awaiting attention or validation from something or someone.
Oh, I'm always pining for attention.
Yeah. Yeah, she is. Any attention she gets, she hams it up. Like she just rolls around in it like a pig in
rolling
mud.
around in ham. That's what I do.
So the last thing, because your dream was so weird, like it was very difficult to find things that made sense. But
Yeah, I know.
You mentioned bathrooms twice in your dream, so I found this funny.
Okay. Now we're
says-
getting somewhere.
It says when you dream about bathrooms, you want to relieve yourself or cleanse yourself of negative
Sin.
vibes or negative emotions. But unfortunately, I didn't find anything about two women who were hiding stuff in the bathroom that you had mentioned. So, there's your interpretation of your dream.
it was very trippy. I partially remember in the dream like this is interesting.
Yeah.
But I typically have dreams like that. That's
Okay.
You did dress up as a hippie for Halloween. I don't know if that affected
in my subconscious.
Well, thanks for listening to today's episode about dreams. And if you're dreaming about more new episodes of Double Stuff Podcast, you can visit our website at doublestuffpod.com, and you can listen to us on all major platforms. And since we're revisiting old topics, you can binge listen to everything that we've done within the past year. Go to our website, scroll all the way down, start with episode 1, and then you can catch up to what we did today. And then you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Look us up at Double Stuff Podcast. And then at Twitter, find us at Double Stuffed P, which is the letter P. Thanks for listening today, guys.